Yeah. Icing at the, it's just such a stunningly stupid decision, and it's gonna blow up in their faces so hard that like shockingly stupid, especially because they were given no time to prepare. But you know, okay. Okay, sir. I don't actually know that I can tell what earrings this person bought. Some silver ones. Silver ones. Right. We will make silver ones. These say pink. Okay. And good morning. It's me. I'm here. I mean, nobody's sending FEMA anywhere because Donald Trump is trying to collapse FEMA. It's gonna be bad this summer with FEMA. Yeah. The thing is, they're disenfranchising their own with their passport than a woman who votes Democratic. Yeah, it's a woman who votes Republican. I say we all go out and get divorced en masse. Sorry. The army has ruined me. It's going to save you if you've updated your passport. I mean, it's unlikely to pass the Senate, and we all need to keep making noise about it. But if you have changed your name, you should definitely have an updated passport. Like, if that's something you know about now, go get it done. Yeah, as long as you have your passport. In theory, you're going to be fine. But of course, they're trying to wreck democracy. They're just so bad at it. They're so bad at it. Come on. Like, we're still on the internet trash talking you, dude. You're such a bad tyrant. No, until they change the passports requirements. That's why I'm saying do it now. If you know you have changed your name, do it now. Nobody is going to get to say they were taken by surprise on this one. It's taking years to pass. Get your passport now. No, part of it is because he also doesn't care about disenfranchising his own people. Like, they want fewer people to vote. Right? They don't want their people voting either. That's why he told his people, just vote for me one more time and then you won't have to vote again. But that's okay, because we're going to vote them out. Good morning, Pacific Northwest. I had such a great time living in Seattle. I mean, it was a very hard time of my life as well, but it was also great. I've decided a new thing. Every time people ask me who's going to come save us, I'd be like, you know all those kids you saw that were homeschooled by the bad parents that you all know about because you all come tell me about them every time I bring up private school or homeschool? Whatever you did for that, whatever you did for those kids, that's who's coming to save you. Daniela, why aren't you more scared? Oh, I don't know. I waited for 15 years for someone to come save me, and nobody did. And adults in America can't even barely make it a year without flipping out. Interesting time. Interesting time. First time joining a live stream. Ooh, Germany. I studied in Friedrichshafen in college. And had a really, really wonderful time in Germany. And also learned a lot because Germans talk about their sins. Don't try to act like it never happened. Such an interesting perspective to take. It's going to be interesting to me as we get more and more woke in America. At some point, we're going to realize that we all need to take a step down in luxury because everything that we have was gotten by ill means. That's going to be a fascinating time to be an American. I was in this city, was called Friedrichshafen, right on the border of Switzerland and Germany. I remember being very, very surprised by how nice Germans were, because that, of course, is not the stereotype we have been given. But again, see, it's like we need to understand that we respond to things like Americans and not Germans. If Germans passed the SAVE law, they would all start traveling with their passports, and they would also make government funding to help everyone get their passport, or they would make it free. Americans' response is going to be something like, fuck you, let's all go get divorced en masse and stop traveling to break the government. Because Americans do not do what we're told. Ever, 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 ever. Unless you force us. Okay. Lisa, got your stuff packaged up. Yep, discussing the history. And like, you kind of have to. I mean, my little quiet little school was evacuated 3 or 4 times for UXO retrieval. Like, it's still very much in the haps. Americans have not had an existential threat on our land for a really long time. Ooh. Don't bring up a problematic stance for an organization of any. I mean, the idea that you can grow enough of anything in your yard to feed yourself is almost certainly not true. I say this as someone married to a plant scientist who's trying to get a community garden started. If you haven't been figuring out how to feed yourself and your community for decades, you're not just going to grow enough stuff to feed yourself. Knowing what's edible in your backyard is extremely important, though. It's hot in here. Cults hate medical care, ... And yes, I do mean the United States military. Because it's never more about successful operations than it is about control. Yes, you maybe can grow enough tomatoes to feed a city. However, you cannot feed a city just on tomatoes. That is exactly what I'm talking about. The government has spent hundreds of years breaking us from people who can survive on the land and barter things in community to people who live in cities and only can work with money. That's not just a back button that you can press. What if everyone filed extensions on their taxes en masse? It would break the government right away. Are you going to organize it? Because if you're not, it's not just going to spontaneously happen. Yes, the workbook came out at the same time as the book. It's also now on Amazon. Considering you couldn't even get the acronym right, yeah. You're not giving me some kind of intelligence on the Family International that you know and I don't know. I think you need to sit down. Okay. My grandfather runs the money for the children of God. I'm very sure that you don't have information that I don't have. Thanks. This is why, for intelligence to matter, you must have placement and access. This random person trying to tell me that the children of God is respawning has neither placement nor access. They're just talking out of their boom boom. As I said, ... I have no idea how Donald Trump is going to convince even active duty military to die in Iran. I'm not offended. I'm just telling you that you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. Okay, thanks. I promise you're not giving me information about the children of God that I don't have. Wherever you think you got your information from, it is not good information. You're revealing in your language that you don't understand the way the children of God is operating even right now. But it's fine. If you think you know something more than I do, then you can know it. I think you're still having a conversation that I'm not trying to have. I know what's going on with the inner workings of the children of God. You do not know what's going on with them from the internet. And especially because what everybody is getting right now is coming from Candace Owens. And I just can't with people on this one. The cult of busyness. Look, I'm not giving you an honest shot or not. You came here to give me some information. I heard your information, and what I told you is my grandfather runs the Children of God, and I think your information is incorrect. That's the end of that whole conversation. Children of God is like 1,000 people sprinkled around the world. It is not what when people are talking about it in the 90s, and that doesn't exist anymore. That's why I know where the information is ultimately coming from. Earthy does. Any size you want to make. I'm going to have to figure out too, because we'll probably give you an address to send them straight to the warehouse. It's also like, it's people trying to go, oh, the children of God, the bad cult, they're the ones doing this. Not like all of the evangelical cults that are actually the ones doing this. The children of God is not the threat anyone needs to be trained on right now. Every evangelical church in America is probably more dangerous than the children of God. I'm not from another country, ... I'm from another planet. Oh, I forgot to make a thing about the Duggar wife. My thoughts about it are all adults in cults are perpetrators. All of them. So all of the Duggar women are perpetrators in addition to the men, because they're all going along with it. Arriving at the ashram, ... Check out our new Devotions with Daniela book. Of course, the troops are not happy with current events. As I said since the beginning, I have no idea how Donald Trump thinks he's going to get soldiers to go die in Iran. I hope they react with fear and by turning their husbands in so that it doesn't move on to them. But most likely they will react with doubling down harder, as they usually do. No, I don't think it'll be a wake-up call. I think it'll just be a sign that the persecution is real. The outside world does not, in fact, understand. What is a brigade? Brigade is like when you hear a combat unit has been sent in somewhere, that is generally a brigade. Brigade is like your highest tactical level fighting force. And then you have, and it's usually about 3,000 people. You have battalions under that, usually about 1,000 people, a little bit less because you usually have 4 or 5 battalions in a brigade. Then you have company, below that you have squad, below that you have team. Yeah, I mean, like how are you going to convince soldiers in a volunteer military to go to a highly casualty producing fight when they like don't have to? Yeah, I mean, I have that conversation all the time. It's because I'm a woman. That's why people are always disagreeing with me. All right, I've got 2 things for you, Jane. Yep, he's creating all kinds of chaos right now, which is going to be very fun. I mean, I can't think of a faster way to really turn Americans on you than putting ICE in the airports. So, it'd be fun to watch. Messing up travel is a real good way to get Americans really mad at you. No, I don't think we're going to see a lot of service members going to the Iranian side because we have a huge amount of anti-Iran propaganda that we didn't have before, that we did not have for Ukraine. Also, Washington State just passed a law that ICE cannot wear masks. So that's going to be excellent. Yeah, I mean, but even if Congress approves it, like, the only reason you could force people to go to war before was like, do it or I'll shoot you in the face. We've had an all volunteer military since the 70s, the late 70s. Like, people are just going to be like, fine, send me to jail for 2 years. At least I'll be alive. And it's military jail, so it's not even that bad. A deployment is basically like highly paid jail. And when you're in military jail, you're still getting paid and still getting promoted. So they would much rather, I am sure, go sit in jail and continue to receive their paycheck until the military kicks them out than die. That is what I mean by how are you going to convince? You have to convince soldiers to go to war. It was much harder to convince people to go to Iraq than it was to Afghanistan because we had a purpose for being in Afghanistan and we did not have a purpose for being in Iraq. I have to close you again. And those were both extremely low casualty producing wars. They just were. Yes, I talk about moral injury in the military, and I have written 2 books criticizing the military. I don't actually have the earrings this person bought, so I'm just going to send them a whole bunch of other earrings. Oops. It was also low casualty producing for the Iraqis, but yes, I was specifically talking about the Americans. And I was talking about war. Like, obviously, it was more casualty producing than not being at war, but it was a low casualty producing war for both sides. And we were not at war with the Iraqis. It was quite low for them as well. It's fun when people want to snipe at me about my wording, but they probably can't tell us how many people die in war. Yeah, part of why we moved out of the Pacific Northwest is because how white it is. We agreed that if we magically switched every leader on this planet to a woman, females pretty misogynistic, human females are called women. And I believe that if we switched every leader to a woman, things would immediately get better. No, you don't remember me talking about the legality of war because you're still trying to use my own words against me. And like I like to say, don't hear stuff I didn't say. I've talked so much about this war and what they called it. You are the one that doesn't understand the legality of war. As soon as Congress voted to keep supporting, didn't matter what it was called anymore. Before that, it mattered a lot. That's why you saw the administration walk it back for a week, if you were paying attention, which it seems like you weren't. But don't come here to try to punch me in the face when you don't even know the words that I said. Bo, do so much better. Y'all can just listen and learn. You don't ever have to come with a gotcha. Never. It's never a thing. If you think I was wrong, it's weird that you're still here. But I'm just never going to care about you misunderstanding my words, especially when you try to throw them at me. If you don't understand the importance of what happened and those word games that they played, you're not one of the people that needs to be talking. This weekend I fired a bunch. Whoops. Sorry. So this weekend I fired a bunch of my audience. Yeah, but there's ways to ask questions. And the way that you asked it was like, if you couldn't even listen the first time, why are you asking questions? Mm-hmm. Yeah, both of you that think I'm hostile for no reason, you can go the fuck away. Especially you, professor, thinks you know everything. Really weird that you think you can show up in my space and dictate how I act. Go away. I do not want you here. You can either understand that this is a complicated time and we're all trying to put it together, or you can get the fuck out of my space. People have moral injury from participating in every conflict. Oh, she's still hostile to me. Then go away. Why are you here? My favorite is when people try to be like, that's a trauma response. Oh, yes, from someone who wrote 2 books all about trauma. Please tell us something we don't know. Yeah, they'll try to comfort each other about how mean I am instead of just getting out of my space because they don't like me. Good morning. So it's interesting this weekend because I picked on the cultiness of all schooling. It was a discussion about how schooling in America is problematic. And I made the whole video talking about public school, and then I said, but also private school and also homeschool. And I'll give you one guess of which group came for me. Only one, because you only need one. So that was fun. All these people being like, I'm not coming in here anymore because I don't feel safe. Like, I'm not here for you. I'm here for the homeschooled adults. Two complementary colors. Yeah, it's why like book reviews are always about the reader and about the person who wrote it or the book. They tell you about the reader. And also, I didn't even challenge their ideas. I said 2 things about homeschooling. One was a personal opinion, which is if you tell me you're homeschooling because the schools are bad, I think you're selfish. Okay, that's my personal opinion. I'm allowed to have one. The only thing I actually said for discussion was, are you going to be able to hold space for your children? And the answer was a very, very resounding no. And then people tried to pit me and Parkrose permaculture against each other, as though 1, we have to agree on everything, and as though 2, we are not on completely opposite sides of this conversation. She is a parent who chose to homeschool. I'm an adult that was homeschooled. Completely opposite sides of the conversation. Yeah, and I said over and over again, I said 3 times in this one video, do not come tell me your individual reasoning. I don't care. I don't want to hear it. And guess what? Thousands of people still thought their own special situation was more special than my boundaries. And then told me they felt unsafe because I told them to go away. And that's exactly who I want my space to feel unsafe for. Yeah. Literally exactly who I don't want to talk to. What I mean by hold space, it really has baffled me that people cannot look this up. But it means, are you going to let your children have an opinion and just be there for them, regardless of what your opinion is? Yeah, that didn't work. And the thing is, every parent needs to hold space for their children. And public school adults need to hold space for their children, and we don't have to tell them that. Yes, I also want all parents to do this for all of their children. But for some reason, we don't have to tell public schooling parents that they need to hold space for their children to have an opinion on their education. And we do have to say that to homeschool parents, and they still don't listen. That's why the line in my song is, we'll be here for your grown kids when they don't want you to call. Gotta go upstairs and find Purple Yarn. These guys get to come with me. Every single time I am talking about children's well-being. How are you protecting your children? How are you making sure they're safe? Every single time, the answers I get are about how they're controlling how their children speak to the outside world, not about how their children are doing with it. So, tells me everything I need to know. And the thing is, if you actually are convinced that what you're doing is good for your children, you don't usually have to show up and defend it. The reason homeschooling parents howl so loud is because they will not let themselves consider that their children are going to grow up and have opinions. And they really think it's about them looking good to the outside society. And it's the most sad when I talk about Because every time I'm talking about homeschooled adults, I'm talking about their happiness. And then their parents respond with statistics. Well, my kid has a PhD. Yeah, people with PhDs can kill themselves too. And again, it seems crazy that I have to remind people that, like, I'm here to talk about the bad stuff. And people immediately try to invalidate anything I say about homeschool. Well, because you had the bad experience. Yes, it's literally what I'm here for, to talk about the bad stuff every time. We're never having fun conversations on this channel. It's always the bad stuff. I'm talking about yoga, I'm talking about the bad stuff. Yeah, and as I always say, it doesn't have anything to do with the schooling. I mean, that's its own conversation. That wasn't the conversation I'm having. The only conversation that I have publicly about homeschooling is that your kid is going to grow up. If you are giving your kid a different experience growing up than the culture they're growing up in, they're going to have feelings of othering, and they're going to have to deal with that as adults. They just are. And just that concept brings homeschoolers to a rage. Just the concept that your kids one day are going to grow up and get to have their own feelings about how you educated them. And like, honestly, if you believe you're doing such a good job, why are you mad at me for saying your kids are going to grow up and have feelings? Is it maybe because you're super, super, super insecure about how you're doing? Yeah, I'm gonna guess that's what it is. Yeah, you can tell who was homeschooled. And this is what I always say to people try to argue with me. I'm like, you know what? I'm sure you're going to do it right. That's why there's so many of us happily homeschooled adults. We're so easy to find. And like, it's not about being right or wrong. Nobody whose kids are in public school thinks that this was 100% amazing for them and they're not going to grow up and have feelings about it. I think some people are here because they don't want to participate in groupthink. Not everybody. I don't really care why people are here, though. I know why I'm here, and I'm going to keep doing my thing. Yeah, and it's like being exposed to different. They're like, oh, well, we take our kids to whatever. Being in a world, spending a significant amount of time out in the world where your parents have not curated it for you is a skill you need to have as an adult. Yes, there is also an incredible amount of parentification that comes along with homeschooling generally. It's also generally true with multiple kids. This is a fun one. It pisses people off so much. Studies show that 4 is the youngest. You can bring a new child into the family without traumatizing the other baby. 4. And no, I do not care if your kids are spaced less than 4 years apart, because the plural of anecdote is not data. That's probably why in a hunter-gatherer society, women only had children about every 4 years. Well, see, in other countries, in every country, in fact, when they make homeschooling illegal, that is the best protection that children have. Most modern countries around the globe have made homeschooling illegal. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. I grew up in Brazil where homeschooling was illegal, and I grew up very much homeschooled. I am reading a book about FLDS right now. And it's interesting because it's Rebecca. Oh gosh, I don't even know which name she used, but Rebecca Walls. One of the first cult books I read outside of Children of God was Elisa Walls, except I called her Alyssa Walls in my head. And didn't realize that those two were siblings until she got to that part where her sister was married off at 13. I was like, it's that family. The one that actually took down Warren Jeffs. Yeah, I mean, there's no oversight in homeschooling, and all this to say, I'm never but never trying to have a conversation about the merits of homeschooling. I'm literally here to hold space for the homeschooled adults to express whatever opinion they have. Isn't it so fascinating how most homeschooled adults are not homeschooling their children? Yeah, and also you miss things like getting diagnosed for neurodivergence because everyone in your family thinks it's normal because it's hereditary.
Ele assina isso, ele assina hoje, porque daí como ele não vai estar presente essa semana, e aí a gente combina.
Yeah, and the thing is, and you say like other countries, they don't just make homeschooling illegal, they then build programs for children who don't fit the system. I mean, I was so traumatized by COVID homeschooling. I was like, no. And also, just like a very simple question that they never like to consider: who does your kid bitch to when they have a bad day at school? If their school is in your home, don't you say yourself? That's why I say I'm not here for you. I'm not even here for your children. I'm here for your future adult children. Oh, I'm so famous. They're complaining about me on Roblox. I love it. Love it. Oh. way people think they get to have an opinion about me and I have to care. So fun. Roblox. It's a video game. It is a video game that has its own like cult ties. Which is fun. All right, Jane. Color, earrings. No, I'm gonna have to go upstairs again. Yes, I am. I already gave away the cream colored earrings. BRB. But also, like, it still goes back to black and white. Homeschooling parents are always having a binary conversation. Like, your kid gets to grow up and have an opinion about the way they were raised. End of story. It's not even that you're choosing whether or not you're going to hold space for it. They're going to choose what happens when you don't hold space for them. Your children are the ones that get to choose. So many parents can't even hold space for the idea that their children are going to grow up and get to have things like individual choice and opinions on how you raised them. There's a couple groups in Roblox that are luring children into chat rooms. If you ever heard of the Anne Rice internet vampire cult, it's very similar. So what I teach my child is quite simple. You never, ever, ever go from a video game to meet anyone, anywhere. Not in a chat room, not on another game, not in real life. You're never allowed to leave the public thing and go privately interact with someone on the internet. But again, I'm not banning her from playing Roblox because there is a threat, because that would be holding her separate from the culture that she's growing up in. And that is likely to have more harmful effects than the chance that she brushes up with a Roblox cult and doesn't know how to handle it.
Ele ainda não tem certeza, mas talvez sábado ou domingo.
That being said, I'm going to say some military brats live and are taught within the framework of military culture. Many, many military families homeschool, especially the more and more evangelical the military gets. The homeschool lobby is also very wild. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the military spouse culture is one of the worst cultures I've ever been in.
Tá bom, então.
It is horrible and extremely toxic.
Tá bom, então tá. Obrigada. Eu falo com ele. Ok. Tá bom. Tá, obrigada.
It's probably why becoming a mom was what radicalized me. I agree with this very much. Forcing abstinence of any kind doesn't, at best, you're controlling it for right now. But, you know, as has been said, you're not raising kids, you're raising adults. They're going to get to grow up and go out into the world and have any sort of opinion about your parenting that they want. You know, the term dependa is horrible and very misogynistic and bullying, and I do not ever allow it in my space. And it is, and they literally say dependopotamus, like it is dehumanizing language. It's extremely offensive and upsetting. We're raising adults. And that's why, literally, during COVID, our next door neighbors had a 19-year-old and a 21-year-old. And these adults moved hell and high water to come home and quarantine with their parents. And you could not have paid my husband or I any amount of money. No, I don't know why any of you suddenly think I'm listening to Candace Owens. But I'm not. Candace Owens does not have secret information about the children of God that nobody else has. And Candace Owens has been someone not worth listening to for decades. Like, I'm not suddenly taking her seriously because she doesn't like Trump. That's bonkers. Yeah, so we decided then and there that was like our parenting goal. It was like we want our adult child to want to come home and quarantine with us in an emergency. We want our adult child to think when they have a problem, like, I need mom and dad, not I hope mom and dad don't find out. Listen to Trevor Noah's book about how he went to jail because to him that was less scary. He went to jail in South Africa, and to him that was less scary than having to deal with his mom finding out. This was a lot of crafts I had to make this morning. Yeah, I mean, I always say to people, like, you should be firmly aware that your child did not ask to be born or to be a prisoner in your house for 18 years. So, like, we teach our child that she needs to be a good family member, but we also tried to be aware of the fact that she did not ask for this. We chose to live here, and she did not. Punching holes in walls is a big thing in soldier cultures. To address that with many partners. No amount of violence is acceptable, not even at walls. Yes, and also because when men punch walls, it's usually because they want to be punching women or children. That is something up with which I will not put. Crazy talk. Back to the ice thing. I can't think of any faster way to turn Americans against ICE even harder than putting them in airports. It's going to be an interesting thing to watch. Hope everyone's got their F ICE t-shirts ready to go. Bye. You're cool. I yell at you over a response and you didn't mean it. It just usually means I get that a lot from trolls. People have been trying to make me stupid for the way I talked about the attack in Iran for like 3 weeks now, and I would have not been wrong, so I'm a little sensitive about it. He's trying to back out of it now. He's trying to bully his allies into helping, except that America doesn't really have allies anymore because he told them all to go F themselves. I mean, why does it seem? Of course it seems like we kicked a hornet's nest in Iran. Like, there's a reason we have had hostile relationships in Iran since the 80s, and nobody's been stupid enough to do something like this. Like, they literally war game this out, and America loses every time. In fact, closing the Strait of Hormuz is seen as one of the easiest checkmates you can do on the globe. Donald Trump probably didn't even know the Strait of Hormuz existed before he started blowing things up. Look at my little earring mat. Earrings I wanted are not here. Tripwire. Oh, the tripwire. Got to watch out for the tripwire. Right. So they just put a bunch of different earrings because you don't have the ones they ordered. Sorry, folks. Knocked you over with the tripwire. I mean, Afghanistan is what has been called the graveyard of empires for millennia. That's an important title for Afghanistan to keep. But yes, you are correct that it's not going to go well. I briefed my unit once that Afghanistan was known as the graveyard of empires. And, well, the bosses didn't like that. And then I said to them, with all due respect, sir, I'm the chaplain. I'm not the chaplain. I'm not here for morale. I'm the threat officer. That man was not due any respect, though, because he was a complete douchebag. They probably do still prepare a daily brief for him, but I'm sure they don't give it to him. I'm sure it is given to other people, his representatives. I'm sure they prepare a brief for Stephen Miller every day. Iran is in a lot of ways like Afghanistan, terrain-wise, but it is not landlocked. A couple of other things that are very significantly different. Like Iran has a concept of themselves as a nation, so that Iraq, Afghanistan really did not, which brought up this whole own slew of issues when you are over there. I'm sure there are people in his, I'm sure people tried to tell him it was a bad idea. I'm also sure he doesn't listen to anyone. No, I mean, he famously did not want the intelligence briefs ever since he first became the Republican nominee the first time. And everyone was shocked by it. And that has never changed. He thinks he knows everything. And that's why he picked, much like King Henry VIII, the stupidest war that you could pick. So, I really, really hope that America doesn't have to learn this lesson by having 2,000 Marines come home in coffins. But like, what was it when he didn't know the Tomahawk missiles? When he was like, I don't know who has them. Like, whew, that is your, like, of course he doesn't know who has them. I wouldn't expect the president to just know off the top of his head which countries have Tomahawk missiles. Your team, however, should be making sure you don't go out and make a public fool of yourself. My job as the intelligence officer, my primary job was not actually to keep the soldiers safe. It was to make sure that my boss was never surprised by anything in a meeting with higher headquarters. That was my job. That's why I've always, ever since Donald Trump was saying he didn't know anything about QAnon, they're like, all right, well, your staff is bad at their jobs. Very bad. Because that's literally your job. Job is to make sure they can't get you. Oh, it's not going to fit. Bumsies. Yeah, they hire some qualified people, and also he still hired the best people who will come work for him. I think people like forget this when they're like, every time someone gets fired, they're like, oh, he's just going to bring in another, oh, the next guy's going to be worse. Like, probably not. He already got the worst people he could find. As in, and I mean worse, evil, you know, like there wasn't a lot of people lined up to work for this administration who were qualified. And this is exactly when all of you, okay, what's going on in Iran right now? This is why when all of you were scared that the military was going to turn on the American people because he was putting all these bad people into place. And I'm like, yo, bad military commanders do bad military operations, as in unsuccessful military operations. So therefore, I'm even less worried about what he can do to the American people if he's only got bad commanders in place. The second worst is better than the most worst. And it's also significant because when a cult leader is in endgame, he needs all those people, right? Those people are what's keeping it going. It's like so funny every time people are like, well, it doesn't matter if he dies like that. Steve Miller. I'm like, you do know that the deputy White House chief of staff goes away when the chief goes away, right? Nobody comes up to being the vice president without having their own people that they owe positions to. I don't think there's ever been a vice president who replaced a president that just took their entire staff and kept it the way it was. It's just not how politics works. It is extremely unfair to the military. A lot of the military is embarrassed. I mean, I still can't even believe we're having the conversation about is the military going to support Donald Trump? Like, I can't believe that wasn't put to bed after the parade. Seems really crazy to me. And I guess it just all comes down to a lack of understanding of how our military works. But like, he couldn't even get them to not march funny. And you all are afraid that they're going to go massacre people for him. Like, marching. It's the bare minimum of what we do. All soldiers know how to not march funny. And when they're not doing it, that's a sign of a thing. A sign of a thing. When 200 soldiers in 24 hours filed complaints against Pete Hegseth briefing about Armageddon, or their commanders briefing about Armageddon, that's a sign. And like, I didn't even get good marching training because I was serving during a time of war, and still, I will never forget how to march. It's the literal basic thing. And also, it's hard to walk out of sync with each other, right? It's called syncopation, and we do it pretty automatically when we're walking with another human being. We sync up our steps together. So like, they actually had to pay attention and march off beat. That wasn't just, oh, they didn't get practice. And like, they did not practice for the 250th birthday of the US Army. They literally said, sir, we will burn down our own 250th birthday so that you can't have it. I was so proud of them that day. And that was also when I stopped questioning my predictions about the military. nobody, the military is eager to comply with him. And one of the things I've been saying is like, he doesn't understand our military because he has only ever looked at, studied, whatever you want to call it, the militaries of tyrants. But our military has also been looking at and studying the military of tyrants. So they understand him. They're prepared for him. That's why Greenland went exactly the way I said it was going to go. He said, go plan me an invasion. And they said, we're not going to do that, sir. That's terrible. And then nothing happened. So I remain very interested to see if he's going to convince people to go to Iran. But I have my very significant doubts that we will be doing anything like putting boots on the ground. And I hope we don't. I mean, again, it's going to be a real hard lesson for the United States to see 2,000 Marines come home in coffins all at once. Which was also why those of us who understand the military were like, no. When y'all were saying, they killed hundreds of soldiers over there. No. Where are the bodies? Where are the coffins? Where are the families missing their people? No. You can't have hundreds of soldiers die and have America not know about that. That's not the way it works. Injuries, they can keep a lot more quiet. But that's why it's a big deal when you have special operations soldiers die in countries we're not supposed to be in. Because there's a way that this has to happen. It is not reliant on the president, even a little bit. And there's no way to control it, especially during the information age. They stopped being able to do information blackouts a long time ago. And now they just have to ruin your career if you say anything. But again, families of deployed people know they are deployed. And they're not just going to sit quietly if they've been told that hundreds of people are killed and the government's not talking to us about it. Yeah, but the president does not control the airing of dignified transfers or photos. Like, that's what I'm saying. People keep acting like we're already at totalitarianism and he can just control everything. He can't. If you had hundreds of soldiers who had died with bombs in Iran, I promise you there would be many, many soldiers who didn't give a fuck about their careers being harmed who would be telling us about it. And again, the families that if and when we see hundreds, if not thousands of soldiers die over there, it's going to affect huge amounts of neighborhoods in America. That's not a thing that anyone can keep a lid on. It's just not a thing. And that's one of the ways you can know what's real and what's not real. That's one of the ways I know, anyway. He is bad at fascism, and you need to know what you're doing. It's the chess analogy is perfect. Like, just because you're up all the pieces doesn't mean you know how to checkmate, which doesn't mean you know how to win the game. You can have 9 queens on the board and still lose if you don't know how to execute a checkmate. They also tried to postpone elections during the Bush admin. And what did they find out? Oh, there's no way for the federal government to stop elections. Not they can't do it. Not the judges won't allow them. Not if they really, really want to, they can do it. There's no faucet. Same thing I say every time. They're like, he doesn't need the military. They have the police. No, they don't. There's no such thing as the police in America. There are thousands and thousands of municipalities, and there's no way to just federalize them. That's not a thing. We're going to see ICE and DHS fall flat on their face because Trump said, send people, do the thing. And they're going to just... But it's not even unauthorized. We all had perfectly authorized phones in Afghanistan in the second half of the war. Like, they're just... Everything he knows about our military is from way backsies or other militaries. Like, he thinks our military is like the German military of the 1930s, and it's not in so many ways, right? So if you try to treat it like that, it's not going to work out for you. But yeah, nothing he's done so far has worked. So it's scary, it's crazy, but he's losing real bad. And on that note, I will bid you all farewell and go sit in my sauna.